All right, we are back again. I picked a different time to go live. um, yeah, I had so much to do today. The gym and hanging out with the nephews, and yeah, went to the pool. So, welcome back. Welcome back to the channel where you can get delusional with Paulo. Um, where it's okay to be not perfect and awkward. If you're tired of not being able to make a breakthrough, then you have to get delusional so your reality changes. So, like the title says, don't let grief hold you back from living. Let's talk about grief. It's easy to fall into grief. With this channel, it could be easy for me to feel grief, telling myself that I should have started sooner. Um, there was a whole year of being in a limbo period and not knowing what was going to happen for my future due to my court case. And I really didn't take action and following what I thought is my calling, that is helping as many people as I can. With grief comes a lot of sadness, comes with regret. When I was in that period of just being uncertain about the future, there were short periods of regret and not following my intuition. That's what got me in that situation in the first place. And definitely sadness crept in because I felt like I let myself down. I let the people closest to me down. I felt disappointed in myself. I felt moments of helplessness, hopelessness, like my life was over. And I feel like society, we look down, especially at men, with the feelings of grief. Whenever you have to get over an emotion, you have to go through the feelings. So society can say that it's very unmasculine, like to go through or show emotion because they are meant to be strong and tough it out. So these emotions get so suppressed and overwhelming, and you can see that sometimes people are carrying some very heavy things. People carry enough grief around to build a brick house. People are afraid to, once they go there and they think they'll never get out of it, that once they start crying, they'll never stop crying. And, they fall into this trap of always trying to distract themselves, just avoiding the emotion altogether. When that's the very way we go through it, and then we can move on about our lives. It's not that we, don't forget, but we'll just have a better time moving on, you know. In this book that I'm reading, called Letting Go from David Hawkins, the book, he states in there that the continuity of a certain feeling is the resistance to actually just relinquishing that emotion. But if we get to a point where we can relinquish the emotion, let go of the resistance of feeling better, we let go that we might feel embarrassment and shame. We can have pride to move on and then eventually courage to push through. And we can accept our situation, for what it is, especially things that we can't control. We have to accept. It's the suppressed grief. It's the number one reason why where psychosomatic symptoms and health related issues come from. If you notice, a lot of people, when they're dealing with stress, they carry a lot of it in their shoulders and their neck. The fact is that when we have a moment of grief and we're able to surrender to it and actually feel and not distract ourselves, this period of grief can last for a short amount of time. If you go through these little moments of grief that, could last 10, 20 minutes, like an overwhelming grief period, the more we allow ourselves to actually go through the emotion, the less time we'll spend in it the next time it comes up. So there's been research done in saying that, most of that very like debilitating, overwhelming grief lasts anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes. If we suppress the grief there, it will never go away. If we don't accept it, we don't fully just if we just keep distracting ourselves, it was always going to be with us. Do you ever need like a good cry? My favorite place to cry is the shower. But that good ugly cry. So this 1 year of being limbo, which was actually last year in 2024, I did some breath work by myself. Nobody was home, and it was a guided breath work. And I haven't cried like that since I was a little kid, since I was like 6 years old. Being sent to my room, thinking that my crying was gonna change my parents' mind of making me go to my room. But it was such a good cry. I could feel so refreshed afterwards. It was so many years of just suppressed grief. And sometimes you have to let yourself do it. Don't be afraid. Some people are afraid to show emotion in front of their kids, and kids have to know that emotions are real and they're normal. I mean, how much better could you feel if you just let yourself feel every emotion? You could express it and not hold back. I'm not saying lash out on people because you're angry, but yeah, don't do that. But just cry it out. Go somewhere quiet. Go in the shower. Water's already there. So just let it drain down in the shower. If you can allow yourself to let go of the resistance, I mean, you might have fear that if you start crying, you might not stop, but eventually you will. I don't know how many times I think even in this last year, I've cried in the car, I've cried laying in bed. Just if you start distracting yourself, you start finding like unhealthy ways to do it by drinking or finding another bad relationship. So once you start crying, you might feel anger. You might feel anger for yourself or for someone else for believing that you had to suppress your feelings. The society said that's not okay to show, but really it is. And when you finally have the courage to let it out, all that built up grief for years, it just comes out. So imagine how heavy your bag is throughout the years. You've carried so much baggage from situations and events in your life that you really never were able to let process. Can you imagine the peace you feel once you're able to let all your demons catch up to you? There's always a period once you get to a place of courage, peace, and an attachment that you start looking at your reality differently. You start seeing your surroundings differently. You start to be more understanding, more loving, more generous, more caring, more wise, more able to relate to others going through the same type of grief. if you ever feel that you have an unhealthy attachment to something, the fact is that you shouldn't be attached at all. Not to the outcome, not to expectations of something happening or expectations of others. You'll always try to feel whatever you think is missing. You're always going to try to fill that void. And you will think that in order to fulfill, you need to find it outside of you. You need to find it in something, in another person. If we attach ourselves to something or someone, if they are to leave, if someone comes and steals your car, or a person leaves you, then they take some sort of value from you, and that's not the case. You tend to put your value into something you th- that you think is missing, but really it's just in you. So you can imagine the pain that you feel because of the dependency. And that actually goes the other way too. If you feel that someone's attached to you, you can have a little bit of control, and then in a sort of way that you think that because they're attached to you, there's a level of value in that. And I mean, people are just people. We put people on a higher pedestal. So if you ever feel that somebody is trying to control you, or if you're trying to control someone or a situation, it just comes from the fear of loss, because because somehow they are codependent in that person or situation. They end up trying to hold on so tight that the other person can feel that energy, and then they want to push away. They're unattracted. They will People will feel the next person to latch onto to make themselves feel better. So if you ever pay attention to some people that go into these relationships and it doesn't work out, and they're quickly looking for the next person to fill that loneliness. So it really never has anything to do with you or with that person. It has to do with themselves and how they feel about themselves. Like when I was thinking about what I was gonna talk about today, was about grief. And my nephew came up to me, and we were at the trampoline park, and he tells me, and he comes and sits down where I'm at, and he looks sad, and I said, "What's wrong?" And he says that I was trying to play dodgeball with this girl, and she told me I suck. I said, "Well, do you believe that? Do you believe you suck at playing dodgeball?" He said, "No." And I said, "Well, what does it matter what she says to you?" And that right there, I try to teach him that, don't take what people say personal. However, if they're calling you a name or they're making you feel bad, it's really about how they feel about themselves. I mean, these are kids, and whatever anger they have, whatever kind of resentment they have maybe at home, they're expressing it out on another person. So he got over it pretty quick, and he was able to go back and continue playing. But the difference between us adults and children is that adults know better. Adults know that people will not be here forever. Adults can accept the situation and decide how they're going to move on. Children, they're reacting on instinct. So it's up to us to change. And really, sometimes in adults, the children in us, we never grow up. So the fear of loss is actually a paradox because it's what makes us have an attachment to persons or a thing. It keeps us in denial that anything is wrong. Change only happen when things get really bad or they look back and they're oblivious to any warning signs that things were always kind of bad. Like if you have a relationship with a person that has red flags from the beginning because whatever insecurity that you have in yourself, you make excuses for it. Then things would get really bad, then you blame yourself for not catching it sooner. So, but we hold on to a bad relationship just so we don't want to be lonely. So we do like to avoid or just hope that bad things just go away on their own. We in bad relationships, we often get into a denial and fall in love with somebody's potential. We're not falling in love with who are they showing us now, and not the reality of how things are. We can easily fall into regret of not paying attention to red flags, but I've been I've been there. Who knows? Maybe I was a red flag for others. I'm not perfect, but it's kind of hard to decipher what is something that's really permanent or knowing that somebody's going to work on things are not healthy, not just for the relationship, but for themselves. So think about what is the symbolism of somebody or something that we choose to continue to keep in our lives? What do they represent? A lot of times, relationships represent something that happened during our childhood. If we're in a bad or toxic relationship, not saying that your parents were bad and awful, it's just sometimes traumatic events stick with us. And when we see that this feeling is like normal, we want to keep replicating it. So our biggest attachment is actually, if you think about it, our biggest attachment in human life is our bodies, is our flesh. We grew up with this body. We look at it in the mirror. We try to take care of it on a daily. But guess what? One day it's going to be no longer. So that's how unattached. So if imagine someone thinking about that every day. I mean, we have to know that I think I said this yesterday, whatever little negative thing you're going through in in a short amount of time from now, it's not going to matter. And I know people go through pretty significant loss, deaths, deaths of children. Like I can't imagine. I don't have biological children of myself, but somehow our parents are there that are able to live on in honor of children that they lost. So we can carry these permanent attachments with the in when there's a threat of things changing, we are angry and we're bitter because we try to control the uncontrollable. So let's say like somebody is in a car accident and they're disfigured or they lose a limb. They can be angry and bitter their whole lives, or they can choose another path. There is a decision here to be made. Do we continue to stay in a negative space, or do you find a reason to live on? And I think that's where a lot of depression comes from, is not living out your purpose. And really that's why I'm starting this YouTube channel because I remember sitting around and thinking, what am I doing with my life? I haven't worked in over a year. And I'm not saying I want to go back to a 9 to 5 job, but I found myself not really having a schedule. I don't wake up with an alarm clock. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with that. And I'm really grateful that I have my own schedule. But I said to myself, okay, I gotta find something. I gotta find something that I'm living for. I wanna grow in. So here I am on YouTube Live. Uh, okay, so I mean, when we suffer a major loss, we are scrambling to look for other ways to cope, looking for something to compensate outside of us. A lot of times that could be drinking, that could be smoking, doing drugs. I don't know if I can say that live, but like I said, bad relationships, reckless behavior, those type of things. And if you ever notice that sometimes in a relationship, if you're ready to leave, the other person could start overcompensating. So it is their behavior is not normal. They're just trying to win you back for a short time. So somebody could be in a relationship and treat them like crap. But the moment the other person wakes up and says, well, I don't want this anymore, then that person can say, oh, wow, like I think I love this person. So I want to start buying them flowers, start buying them nice things. Because we can grow up in this like bad or good. So you're bad, you go to your room. If you're good, I'm gonna buy you ice cream. So we get into this like reward program for saying, well, if I start doing these good things, you're gonna start loving me again, right? And it never fixes the problem. So if if things run out, uh, they overcompensate or the things that you try to avoid yourself with, if those things run out, you are forced to sit with your emotions. And that is when you let the process happen. Let it run through you like water. That's why I said again, the shower is the best to cry because it's just like eyes look red when you come out, a little puffy, but really no one can really hear you either. So, but yeah, notice, what emotions you feel with the feeling of loss, aka the mourning. What is it? So let's say right after a bad breakup, you might feel bitter, resentment, anger, a lot of anger. You could feel, guilty that maybe you think that you could have done better or the other person. And what we're trying to achieve is a level of acceptance for how things are. You have to free up some space in your mind of how you can be creative and how you're going to move on. Because it is a known fact that you cannot be in survival mode and creative mode at the same time. The mind has a really hard time with that. If we hold on to the stress, it can actually cause physical ailments. I don't know how many times I've heard of that. Like once someone chooses to get out of a bad relationship, they stop having stomach ulcers. So the relationship between the mind and body are pretty powerful. If you want to prevent an onset of debilitating grief, you can recognize and surrender to the mild feelings before they get so big. That's what happens. A lot of people wait until it's just uncontrollable. And then now they're going to go see the doctor, and now they need meds, and now they need therapy. And there's nothing there's nothing wrong with therapy at all. It's actually probably better that you went and saw a therapist when things were still controllable, they were still mild. Because now, if you're saying, well, now this pain is so bad that now I need to go see a therapist, you're relying on that therapist to pull you out when you're looking for somebody for all the answers, which is great. You get to learn from them, you get to vent, you get to have somebody that's a non-bias that has a non-biased opinion. But you have to do the work yourself. All of our pain, all of our suffering comes from an attachment, especially to objects and people. So whenever you're not feeling well mentally, think about what am I attached to? Am I attached to a routine? Am I attached to am I attached to where I live? Ask yourself what is it and what is so incomplete in ourselves that we have to, seek fulfillment in like a replacement. So I know like people that might move from California to the Midwest, and now they're so upset, they're angry, they're depressed. It's really making the most out of any situation that you are or that you're living in. If we're looking for love, think of ways that you can be more loving. If you're looking for help, look for ways that you could be more helpful. And if you need help in one area, then go and try to find ways that you can be helpful in others. You get what you give, and you're going to receive and accept what you think you deserve. The more love that we give, the less likely we will be hurt by loss. So think about if you're in a relationship, and a lot of people do this like tick for tat, like if you do this, then I'm going to do this. And it's two people being in their egos, just not allowing love. So if you had a relationship and you just gave your love, and then they say, hey, you know what, this isn't working out, it's like, what could you be that upset about? Because you gave all you could. They're the ones that missed out on a good person. So it's a normal feeling to want to feel needed, loved, important, appreciated. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves. We put a lot of pressure on the other person for our self-esteem and what we think other people feel about us. So look to your bigger self for the trust, the unconditional love, the support, the kindness, joy, peace, acceptance. If you want more of that, then become that. So really that's all I want to say today. No one's here for my stream, but it's going to be uploaded and people can come back and watch it. I think I've had a few viewers of my last 2 videos, and if I can help one person, that'd be great. I really want to build a community and build deep. So if you know anybody who needs help, then send them my way. So I'm just going to close with this. Your mind will say you can't, you're I don't know why I keep messing this up, but your mind will tell you lies. Okay. So you have to be so delusional that you have to prove it wrong. And you have to believe it anyways. I'll see you tomorrow.